Across the vast expanse of history, one civilization unlocked the mysteries of the cosmos, medicine, and mathematics in ways that challenge everything we know about human progress. What if the greatest scientific discoveries weren't made in modern times, but rediscovered? The hum of modern science fills laboratories, where physicists, mathematicians, and astronomers unravel the mysteries of the universe. Equations flash across screens, particle accelerators collide atoms at unimaginable speeds, and telescopes stretch their gaze into the farthest reaches of space. This is the age of discovery, an era where human intellect pushes the boundaries of the known world. But there's something unsettling about this triumph, a question that lingers in the spaces between our greatest achievements. Are we truly discovering these ideas for the first time? Or are we merely rediscovering knowledge that was already known, written in a language we failed to recognize? Across the vast expanse of history, civilizations have risen and fallen, leaving behind traces of their ingenuity. The towering pyramids of Egypt, the astronomical precision of the Mayans, the architectural mastery of the Romans, all celebrated as wonders of the ancient world. But there is another story, buried not in stone but in words, carried through time in sacred verses and philosophical treatises. A story of a civilization whose understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and the cosmos rivals, even surpasses what we consider modern science. Deep within the texts of ancient Hindu civilization lies a perspective on the universe so profound, so eerily aligned with contemporary discoveries, that it forces us to question everything we thought we knew about the origins of knowledge itself. What if the concept of a universe emerging from a singular point, what scientists now call the Big Bang, was described thousands of years ago in texts like the Bhagavata Purana? What if the cyclic nature of time, an idea now proposed by theoretical physicists, had already been mapped out in the ancient Hindu concept of yugas, vast epochs forming a never-ending cosmic rhythm? What if a civilization without telescopes or modern instruments had calculated planetary orbits with astonishing precision, their findings mirroring the data we now confirm with satellites? These are not myths. These are documented insights, passed down through millennia, waiting for us to listen. As we step into this world of lost knowledge, the lines between past and future begin to blur. The wisdom of the ancients no longer belongs to history books. It demands to be re-examined. The deeper we look, the more we realize the answers we seek today may have already been whispered across the ages, encoded in a legacy that never truly disappeared. The modern mind is trained to see time as a straight line, a relentless march forward, ticking away second by second, moment by moment. It is a path with a beginning and an end, a one-way journey from past to future, birth to death, creation to destruction. But not everyone has seen time this way. In the depths of ancient Hindu thought, time was never a simple progression. It was not a single thread unraveling toward infinity, but a vast, breathing entity, folding and unfolding in cycles so immense they dwarfed the lifespans of stars. It was a cosmic rhythm, a pulse that dictated the birth and rebirth of everything, from the smallest grain of sand to the entirety of existence itself. The sages of ancient India spoke of yugas, great ages that shaped the world in repeating patterns, much like the rise and fall of civilizations, the ebb and flow of oceans, or the beating of a heart. For yugas formed a cycle, and thousands of these cycles made up a single kalpa, a day in the life of Brahma, the creator deity. And when one of Brahma's days ended, so too did the universe, only to be born again when the next day began. These numbers are staggering. A single kalpa spans 4.32 billion years. A full cycle of Brahma's existence stretches beyond 311 trillion years. These vast scales of time, calculated thousands of years ago, now find unsettling parallels in the theories of modern astrophysics, where scientists attempt to measure the lifespan of universes, the expansion and contraction of reality itself. And there is something even more astonishing. The Hindu texts did not describe the universe as a singular creation. They spoke of multiple universes, innumerable realms, each governed by its own cycles of birth, decay, and renewal. The Bhagavata Purana tells of a cosmos with infinite worlds, each existing simultaneously, each with its own time, space, and reality. Today, physicists propose something strikingly similar. The multiverse hypothesis suggests that our universe is but one of many, existing within a grander framework of countless other universes. Some believe these parallel realms could be connected, influencing one another in ways beyond our comprehension. The very fabric of time and space might not be as rigid as once thought. It could be fluid, overlapping, cyclical. But how could an ancient civilization, without satellites or particle accelerators, conceive of something so profoundly close to what modern scientists now theorize? There is no simple answer. Only the realization that the knowledge of time, space, and existence itself may not belong to any single era. It drifts between ages, resurfacing when minds are ready to grasp it. And if the ancient sages were right about the nature of time, then perhaps our greatest discoveries have already been made, long ago, in a world that understood the infinite better than we do today. Centuries before telescopes first gazed into the night sky, before satellites mapped the stars with mathematical precision, there were those who already knew. Not through modern technology, not through digital computation, but through something far older, a system of knowledge so advanced that its accuracy still leaves scholars in awe. In the sacred texts of ancient India, the cosmos was more than a mystery to be pondered. It was a vast and ordered structure, its secrets written in numbers, cycles, and carefully recorded observations. The Rig Veda, one of the oldest known texts in human history, described the earth as a sphere, a revelation that would not become widely accepted in the Western world until thousands of years later. But there was more. The Surya Siddhanta, an astronomical treatise dating back at least 1,500 years, perhaps much older, calculated the length of a solar year with astonishing precision. Its measurement of 365.242175 days differs from modern calculations by mere decimal points, an error so small that it falls within the margin of today's atomic clocks. The text also contained equations for planetary orbits, axial tilts, and even the concept of gravity, long before Newton formalized its laws. It spoke of a heliocentric solar system, centuries before Copernicus proposed the idea to a skeptical Europe. How could such knowledge exist without telescopes, satellites, or the scientific revolution that defined modern astronomy? And yet, the mysteries deepened further. Mathematics, the language of the universe, flourished in this civilization. The concept of zero, a foundation upon which all modern computing and physics rely, was first developed in ancient India. The place value system, the decimal system, and advanced principles of algebra and trigonometry were written down, while much of the world still counted on crude tally marks. Aryabhata, a mathematician and astronomer born in the 5th century, calculated the value of pi with remarkable accuracy. He proposed that the Earth rotated on its axis, a claim that would take the rest of the world over 1,000 years to fully accept. Brahmagupta, another mathematical pioneer, developed the rules for solving quadratic equations, concepts that remain fundamental to mathematics today. The sheer precision of these discoveries raises an unsettling question. How did they know? What methods allowed them to achieve such advanced understanding without modern instruments? Was it purely the power of human intellect, sharpened by centuries of observation and calculation? Or was their approach to knowledge one that did not separate science from philosophy, logic from intuition, the key to unlocking truths that modern minds still struggle to grasp? As satellites orbit the Earth and space probes venture deeper into the cosmos, the echoes of these ancient insights remain. The equations we use today are, in part, the legacy of minds that saw the universe not just as a vast expanse of stars, but as a puzzle to be solved, a code waiting to be deciphered. And perhaps, the greatest mystery is not just what they knew, but how much of it we have yet to rediscover. 1,000 years before the first modern hospitals, before antiseptics, before anesthesia as we know it, there were healers performing surgeries with a precision that defied the limitations of their era. In the heart of ancient India, long before the Renaissance revived scientific thought in the West, medicine was not primitive guesswork. It was an advanced discipline recorded in texts so detailed that some of their techniques are still practiced today. In the pages of the Sushruta Samhita, written over 2,500 years ago, surgical procedures were described with astonishing clarity. Sushruta, often called the father of surgery, cataloged more than 300 surgical procedures, detailing everything from reconstructive surgery to cesarean sections, from treating fractures to the removal of tumors. His texts outlined 125 surgical instruments, some resembling modern scalpels, forceps, and probes. The level of sophistication raises a profound question. How did such an early civilization develop techniques that would not appear in the West until the 19th century? One of the most remarkable procedures described in these texts was rhinoplasty, the reconstruction of a damaged nose. In an era where punishment often included mutilation, Sushruta devised a method using skin grafts, a technique so advanced that variations of it are still used in plastic surgery today. But surgery was only one part of this vast medical tradition. The Charaka Samhita, another foundational text, focused on internal medicine, pharmacology, and holistic healing. It contained detailed knowledge of human anatomy, disease classification, and the effects of hundreds of medicinal plants, many of which modern pharmaceutical companies continue to study. The text spoke of the importance of hygiene, the concept of immunity, and even the idea that emotions and diet played a role in overall health, ideas that would take centuries to gain recognition in Western medicine. Even more astonishing was their understanding of anesthesia and antiseptics. While medieval Europe still believed wounds should be left open to air, Indian physicians were using herbal antiseptics to prevent infection. They combined natural analgesics with carefully controlled breathing techniques, creating a form of anesthesia that allowed for painless surgery, a technique far ahead of its time. How was such knowledge acquired? Did it come purely from centuries of careful observation, trial and error, and a deep respect for the human body? Or was their approach to healing one that saw no division between science, nature, and spirituality? The reason for their success? The ancient physicians of India were not just healers. They were pioneers, laying the foundation for medical advancements that would take the rest of the world centuries to fully comprehend. And even now, as modern medicine continues to evolve, their legacy whispers through history, reminding us that the past still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. Science and spirituality, two forces that, in much of the world, have stood at odds for centuries. One demands proof, the other seeks meaning. One dissects the physical, the other explores the unseen. And yet, in the ancient Hindu civilization, there was no war between them. There was no need to choose. Knowledge, in its truest form, was never divided. To the sages of India, understanding the universe was not a matter of faith or reason, it was both. They saw no contradiction in seeking answers through observation while also turning inward, using the mind itself as a tool for discovery. Their temples were not just places of worship, they were centers of learning. Their texts were not just prayers, they were treatises on mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Their meditation was not merely for spiritual enlightenment, it was a discipline that sharpened thought, expanded perception, and, perhaps, unlocked insight science is only now beginning to recognize. At the heart of this philosophy was a profound idea. The universe and the human mind were reflections of one another. The external world, with its galaxies, atoms, and forces, was not separate from human consciousness, but intricately linked to it. This idea, known as Advaita Vedanta, proposed that reality was not many things, but one, a single, interconnected existence. Centuries later, quantum physics would begin hinting at something eerily similar. The observer effect, the strange nature of entanglement, the idea that reality at its core may be shaped by observation. These are modern scientific puzzles that echo the insights of minds that lived thousands of years ago. This unbroken pursuit of knowledge gave birth to breakthroughs that changed the world. It was why Hindu mathematicians saw numbers not just as quantities, but as abstract symbols of infinite potential. It was why astronomers could map the heavens with astonishing precision while also contemplating the nature of time itself. It was why medicine evolved not just as a way to heal the body, but as a holistic system that accounted for mind, diet, and spirit. Where others built walls between disciplines, they built bridges. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson this ancient civilization offers. Not just the knowledge it uncovered, but the mindset that made it possible. Because curiosity, unshackled by rigid divisions, can reach further. A mind that is free, that does not fear the unknown or resist contradiction, can touch the infinite. Knowledge is fragile. It does not vanish in an instant, nor does it fade without a trace. It is lost slowly, eroded by time, buried by conquest, rewritten by those who come after. Civilizations rise, their wisdom shaping the world, only to be overshadowed, fragmented, or simply forgotten. The brilliance of ancient Hindu science was no exception. For centuries, its discoveries illuminated medicine, mathematics, and the cosmos itself. The texts of Sushruta described surgeries with precision. The calculations of Aryabhata mapped the heavens. The verses of the Rig Veda spoke of the earth as a sphere, orbiting a sun that held the center of a grand celestial dance. Yet, much of this knowledge, once flourishing, slipped into obscurity, not because it was wrong, but because history is not always kind to the truth. Invasions came. Empires fell. Great universities, like Nalanda, where thousands of scholars once studied astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy, were reduced to ashes. Oral traditions, passed down for generations, faded as time scattered their keepers. Colonial rule rewrote narratives, often dismissing or overlooking the intellectual achievements of those who came before. The world forgot, but the knowledge never truly disappeared. Fragments remained, hidden in ancient manuscripts, preserved in temple inscriptions, whispered in traditions that refused to die. And then, slowly, piece by piece, it began to resurface. The concept of zero, dismissed for centuries in the West, re-emerged, revolutionizing mathematics. Astronomical calculations, once ignored, were found to rival the precision of modern instruments. The medical techniques of the Sushruta Samhita, thought to be relics of the past, proved to be strikingly advanced, influencing modern reconstructive surgery. Even today, the rediscovery is not complete. There are manuscripts still waiting to be deciphered, lost texts yet to be uncovered, questions still unanswered. How did these ancient minds reach such extraordinary conclusions without the tools we rely on today? How much more is still hidden, buried beneath centuries of neglect? A civilization's legacy is not measured by what it leaves behind in stone, but by the ideas that refuse to be forgotten. And now, as science once again aligns with discoveries written thousands of years ago, the world is beginning to listen. Not to myths, not to legends, but to knowledge. Knowledge that was never truly lost, only waiting to be found. The pursuit of knowledge has always been a relentless force, one that drives civilizations forward, pushing the boundaries of what is known. And yet, history reveals a pattern. Discoveries once dismissed resurface centuries later, revelations buried by time emerge again, and the brilliance of the past refuses to be forgotten. The ancient Hindu civilization was not merely a footnote in the history of science. It was a foundation, one that laid the groundwork for ideas that would take the rest of the world millennia to fully understand. It envisioned the universe in ways that parallel modern astrophysics. It calculated planetary movements with a precision that challenges assumptions about ancient technology. It developed medical techniques so advanced that they still influence surgery today. And yet, the greatest lesson left behind is not just in the discoveries themselves, but in the way knowledge was pursued. This was a civilization that did not separate science from philosophy, numbers from meaning, or observation from intuition. It understood that discovery thrives when rigid barriers do not exist. That innovation is not confined to one era, one culture, or one method of thinking. Today, as humanity stands on the edge of new frontiers, exploring the quantum world, searching for life beyond our solar system, and questioning the very nature of reality, there is something to be learned from those who came before. Not just their findings, but their mindset. The past reminds us that progress is not linear, that wisdom does not belong to a single age, and that the search for truth is endless. And if the sages of ancient India were right about the cycles of time, then knowledge itself is no different. It is not something to be owned, nor something that can ever be truly lost. It waits, it returns, and it continues forever.